evening. On tonight's broadcast of 28 Waltz, we take a look back into the 60s. We will be covering multiple topics including women's issues, Gulf of Tonkin, JFK, fashion of the 60s, the election of 68, and music of the 60s. Reflecting on the election of 68, Nixon winning was not what the people had in mind at the beginning of the race. The leading candidate was the brother of former President JFK, Robert F. Kennedy. But the Kennedy name seems to be cursed, for just like his brother, Robert too was assassinated. The final candidates were Nixon, the Republican, Humphrey, the Democrat, and Wallace as an independent. In the popular vote, the battle was fairly close between Humphrey and Nixon, Nixon having 43.4% of the votes and Humphrey having just 42.7% of the votes. But in the electoral vote, it was no contest for Nixon, as he had 55.9% of the votes, as Humphrey only had 35% of the votes, and Wallace clocking out at 8.4% of the electoral votes. Nixon making becoming president look quite easy. Let's hope he doesn't allow things to go south for our country. Also during the election, there were riots at the Democratic Convention. Violence began Sunday, August 25th. Anti-war protesters clashed with 11,900 police, 7,500 Army troops, 7,500 Illinois National Guardsmen, and 1,000 Secret Service agents over 5 days in the city of Chicago. While the city of the streets were full of fighting, the Democratic Party falls apart over internal disagreement concerning its stance on Vietnam. Looking back on John Fitzgerald Kennedy's time in office as the 35th President of the United States seems almost surreal. He was the youngest president to be elected into office at the age of 43. He was assassinated at the age of 46 while campaigning for re-election in Dallas, Texas on November 22, 1963. Some events that occurred while he was in office included the Bay of Pigs invasion, which was an unsuccessful invasion of communist Cuba by Cuban exiles trained by the U.S. government in 1961. Peace Corps, a volunteer program set up by Kennedy to help people outside the U.S. understand the U.S. cultures and help people inside the U.S. understand foreign cultures peacefully. Putting a man on the moon. Even though this amazing feat did not happen under Kennedy's time in office, it was his goal to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade, and that goal has been reached. He would be proud.
Okay. Most of the music is being influenced by feminism and Black Power. Recently, Johnny Cash has been primarily recording country music. His music shows great compassion for minorities and for others who were shunned by society. Mary Robbins proved to be one of the genre's most diverse singers. Most African Americans don't get enough credit because of racial barriers. But after the Civil Rights Movement, R&B music is finally being recognized and enjoyed by many. Ben E. King's song Stand By Me has become the #1 song on the R&B chart. Pink Floyd's Knock on Wood song made it #1 on the Soul single chart. Okay, the Beatles are becoming widely influential to the rock era, ever since their first hit, Love Me Do Me Now. A group of feminists protested at the Miss America contest, arguing that the pageant was sexist. Banks refused to issue a credit card to women, unmarried or married, unless they have their husband to co-sign. Women have been kept out of jury pools because they were thought of being too fragile to hear the details of crime. Many women are having issues with reproductive freedom and women's right to decide when to have children. Birth control can only be prescribed to married women for purposes of family planning. Many women don't get an Ivy League education, like Yale and Princeton, because they don't accept female students, but in most cases, women can only take certain classes that are allowed for them. They don't experience equality in workplaces, even though Congress amendment made it illegal to discriminate against on bias of gender. The National Organization of Women in the Workplace was founded to enforce full equality for women and equal partnerships with men.
During the 1960s was the Gulf of Tonkin Incident and Resolution. On August 2nd, 1964, the USS Maddox was attacked by Navy torpedo ships around North Vietnam in the Gulf of Tonkin. 4 North Vietnamese soldiers were either wounded or killed, while no U.S. soldiers were injured or killed, which led to Johnson being allowed to send troops overseas without Congress's permission. This event led to more U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War, which led to many soldiers being killed or wounded. The occurrence of the Gulf of Tonkin incident was on August 4th when another U.S. ship was supposedly attacked. Although the Secretary of Defense denies it ever happened, this created a lot of distrust within the government.